From my observation pod high above Earth's surface, I watched in fascinated horror as two humans performed what appeared to be their species' bizarre mating ritual. The taller one was holding a small bouquet of dying vegetation while profusely releasing moisture from their skin glands, what humans call sweating. The shorter one stood there, face flushed with increased blood flow, making high-pitched vocalizations that my research indicated was nervous laughter. As a third-year xenoanthropology student from Proxima Centauri b, I thought I had prepared myself for everything Earth could throw at me. My professors had warned us about humans' peculiar habits, their need to consume heated bean water every morning, their tendency to cover themselves in artificial skins they call clothes, and their strange custom of marking the completion of their solar orbit with explosives and sweet nutrient discs. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for the complexity and sheer absurdity of human courtship rituals. My name is Zix427, though my human hosts insist on calling me Zoe because apparently my real name sounds like their Earth machinery malfunctioning. I'm part of the first wave of alien exchange students allowed to observe human society up close, following the historic First Contact 5 Earth years ago. What started as a standard observation assignment quickly turned into an obsession. These humans have developed hundreds, no, thousands, of different ways to initiate potential mate selection. They call it dating, though I've yet to understand why they named such a complex process after their method of tracking time. Take what I witnessed yesterday at this establishment they call a coffee shop. One human spent exactly 47 minutes arranging and rearranging their appearance in the reflective surface of their communication device before their intended mate arrived. They then proceeded to pretend they hadn't been waiting at all, acting surprised when the other human appeared. A complete fabrication that both parties somehow silently agreed to accept as truth. But that's not even the strangest part. These humans have developed an elaborate system of digital courtship that runs parallel to their physical interactions. They send each other carefully curated images of their daily activities, engage in wordplay they call flirting, and sometimes spend hours analyzing the specific number of minutes they should wait before responding to a message. The anxiety this creates seems counterproductive to successful reproduction, yet they insist this is all necessary. My research took an unexpected turn last week when my human host family's offspring, a young adult female, invited me to accompany her to something called a speed dating event. The concept both intrigued and horrified me. Multiple humans attempting to determine genetic compatibility through 3-minute conversations while consuming overpriced fermented grape juice. I watched as 20 humans rotated between tables like some elaborate orbital dance, each trying to compress their entire life story and genetic advantages into 180 seconds. The air was thick with pheromones and desperation. One human spent their entire 3 minutes talking about something called cryptocurrency, while their potential mate's stress hormones became increasingly evident to my sensitive olfactory organs. The most perplexing aspect of all this is how humans simultaneously complicate and oversimplify their mate selection process. They create elaborate rules about who should contact whom first after an initial meeting, yet they also make life-altering decisions based on something as arbitrary as whether their potential mate enjoys the same audio entertainment or shares their preferences in flavored protein discs, apparently called pizza. Just when I think I'm beginning to understand their methods, humans throw another variable into the equation. Yesterday, I learned about something called ghosting, where one human simply ceases all communication with another without explanation. This practice seems to cause extreme emotional distress, yet it's remarkably common. When I suggested to my host family that this behavior was inefficient and potentially harmful, they just laughed and said, "Welcome to dating in the 21st century." As I sit here in my observation pod, watching another human couple awkwardly navigate their first meeting, I can't help but wonder, how did such an obviously intelligent species develop such a convoluted approach to finding a mate? And more importantly, why do they persist with these complicated rituals when simpler methods exist? My communication device just buzzed. Apparently, the Human Cultural Integration Committee has approved my request to participate in one of these dating rituals myself. For scientific purposes, of course. I'm not sure whether to be excited or terrified. Perhaps both? Either way, I suspect this field research is about to become much more interesting. The Human Integration Committee didn't just approve my participation in dating rituals. They insisted on it. Full cultural immersion, they called it. I suspect they're secretly enjoying watching me squirm as I navigate these bewildering customs. My research supervisor back home is probably getting quite the entertainment from my daily reports. My first lesson in human dating came from my host family's parental units. They've been paired for 25 Earth years, which they celebrated by exchanging small metallic trinkets and consuming an overpriced meal at an establishment where the portions are inversely proportional to the cost. When I asked them how they initially chose each other as mates, they shared what they called their meet-cute story. Apparently, they collided with each other at a learning institution's library while reaching for the same academic text. Instead of treating this as the minor accident it was, they somehow interpreted this random occurrence as a sign from their deity that they should initiate a courtship process. Even more baffling, this type of accidental meeting is considered romantic by human standards. I've since noticed that many humans intentionally orchestrate such accidents in hopes of recreating this phenomenon. My host sister, Sarah, took it upon herself to prepare me for my first dating experience. She insisted on something called a makeover, which involved applying various colored substances to my face and choosing appropriate clothing. I had to remind her several times that my natural blue-tinted skin doesn't take well to their earth-based cosmetics, and that no amount of contouring would hide my slightly elongated cranial structure. Dating apps are probably your best bet, Sarah declared while scrolling through something called Tinder on her communication device. At least people won't be surprised by your unique features when they match with you. I wasn't sure whether to be offended or grateful for her pragmatic approach. Creating my dating profile was an exercise in diplomatic relations. How does one accurately describe oneself when extraterrestrial xenoanthropology student isn't a typical occupation option? Sarah suggested we go with international student studying human behavior, which wasn't technically a lie. My bio required several revisions. Draft 1. Seeking human specimen for close observation of courtship rituals. Will require detailed documentation of all interactions for research purposes. Sarah's response. Oh my God, no. You sound like you're going to dissect them. Draft 2. Not from around here. Interested in learning about Earth customs. No probing involved. Sarah's response. Better, but maybe leave out the probing part. Draft 3. Curious researcher with an out-of-this-world perspective seeking someone to explore Earth's culture with. Coffee enthusiast, recent convert. Warning. May ask lots of questions. Sarah's response. Now that's more like it. Within hours of my profile going live, my device began buzzing with notifications. Humans were swiping right on my profile. A gesture I learned indicates interest, though why they couldn't simply state their interest directly remains a mystery. The messages I received were equally puzzling. Hey, is this a greeting or an attempt at establishing dominance through monosyllabic communication? You're not like other girls. Accurate, though not in the way they presumably meant. What's your sign? After considerable research, I discovered they were referring to celestial alignments at the time of my birth, not asking about interstellar navigation markers. Netflix and chill. Sarah had to explain this one. I immediately declined. After filtering through numerous inappropriate requests for genetic sampling, I finally connected with someone whose messages displayed actual cognitive function. Their name was Alex, and they seemed genuinely interested in my international perspective on human culture. Our digital conversation flowed naturally, even when I accidentally used scientific terminology to describe simple concepts. Alex suggested we meet at a local botanical garden, which they claimed was less pressure than coffee. I appreciated their consideration, though I didn't understand how the presence of vegetation would reduce atmospheric pressure. Sarah helped me prepare for this encounter, providing crucial advice such as don't mention your thesis on human mating rituals, and maybe don't take samples of their DNA on the first date. The day of my first human date arrived with unexpected atmospheric precipitation, rain, as they call it. Alex suggested we relocate to an indoor venue, a quaint establishment called a bookstore cafe. As I waited at our designated meeting spot, I observed other humans engaged in similar courtship rituals around me. 2 humans at a nearby table were performing the common ritual of sharing a dessert item while pretending they didn't want it for themselves. Another human was clearly experiencing technical difficulties with their beverage, having failed to successfully direct their drinking apparatus toward their oral cavity multiple times while maintaining eye contact with their potential mate. The entrance censer chimed, and I turned to see a human entering the establishment, shaking off excess precipitation from their outer protective layer. Their physical characteristics matched the images from Alex's profile, though their heart rate appeared elevated, a common symptom of either attraction or anxiety in humans, I'd learned. My own cardiac system began operating at increased capacity as Alex approached my table. This unexpected physiological response warranted further study, but I forced myself to focus on the social protocols Sarah had drilled into me. Smile, but not too widely. My species' full smile tends to unnerve humans. Maintain appropriate eye contact. Challenging with my third eyelid, and appear relaxed, despite the fact that my natural stress response was causing my skin to shift through various shades of blue. "You must be Zoe," Alex said, extending their hand in the traditional human greeting gesture. "Your profile didn't do justice to how unique you look." I accepted their hand, carefully moderating my grip strength to avoid causing discomfort. "Thank you. Your physical form is also pleasantly symmetrical." Sarah would have facepalmed at that response, but Alex actually laughed. "You really are a researcher, aren't you?" they said, settling into the chair across from me. "Your way of speaking is so precise. Where did you say you were from again?" And there it was, the first test of my diplomatic training. How does one navigate the complex waters of human dating while maintaining appropriate levels of classified information? As I opened my mouth to respond, I noticed something odd about Alex's physiological reactions. Their pupils were dilating in a pattern I'd never observed in human subjects before, and their pheromone output was unusual. That's when I realized this date might be more complicated than any of my training had prepared me for. Was Alex truly interested in courtship, or had I inadvertently attracted the attention of someone who suspected my true origins? And more importantly, why did that possibility both excite and terrify me? As weeks passed, my interactions with Alex became increasingly complex. Our coffee dates evolved into longer encounters, walks through the city park, visits to art galleries, and even what humans call movie nights. Each meeting left me with more questions than answers, both about Alex's true intentions and my own unexpected emotional responses. The turning point came during our 7th date. We were sitting on a blanket in the botanical gardens, watching the sunset, a surprisingly common human courtship activity despite its impracticality. Alex was explaining something about their work in data analysis when they casually mentioned pattern recognition and celestial phenomena. My third eyelid flickered involuntarily, a reaction I couldn't control. Alex's hand, which had been absently playing with a blade of grass, froze. The pause in conversation lasted exactly 2.7 seconds longer than our usual comfortable silences. "You know," Alex said, still not looking at me, "I've been comparing star charts from the past few years. Interesting anomalies started showing up around the time of the supposed first contact. They emphasized those last words in a way that made my skin shift 3 shades bluer." I maintained my composure, recalling my diplomatic training. "The advances in Earth's astronomical technology have been remarkable," I offered, trying to direct the conversation toward safer territory. But Alex had that look, the one humans get when they've solved a particularly challenging puzzle. "Your research paper on human behavior," they continued, "the one you mentioned you're writing. I couldn't find it in any university database, and trust me, I looked." They finally turned to face me, their eyes reflecting the setting sun in a way that made my multiple hearts skip several beats. "Also, you tend to hum in frequencies slightly above human hearing range when you're nervous. Like right now." The garden's ambient noise seemed to fade away as I processed this moment. My mission protocols dictated immediate extraction if my cover was compromised. But something else, something distinctly human that I must have picked up during my time here, made me stay. Sarah's voice echoed in my head. Sometimes, Zoe, the best human relationships are built on taking risks. At the time, she'd been talking about trying sushi, but the principle seemed applicable. Alex, I began, my voice modulating between my natural harmonic frequencies and my practiced human pitch. I need to show you something, but not here. Too many witnesses. I immediately regretted my choice of words as Alex's eyebrows shot up. I mean observers. I mean people. A small smile played at the corners of their mouth. There's a private observatory on the university campus. I have access. Would that work? I nodded, perhaps too enthusiastically, causing my neck scales to shimmer briefly in the dying light. If Alex noticed, they didn't react. The walk to the observatory was filled with charged silence. My mind raced through scenarios. Was Alex working for a government agency? Were they simply scientifically curious? Or was this all an elaborate plot to expose extraterrestrial life on Earth? The fact that I cared more about Alex's personal reaction than potential diplomatic consequences was concerning. The observatory dome loomed above us, a familiar shape that reminded me of home. Alex swiped their access card, and we stepped into the cool darkness. The mechanical whir of the dome opening filled the space as Alex worked the controls with practiced ease. Before you show me anything, they said, their voice echoing slightly in the dome, I want you to know something. They turned away from the control panel, their face illuminated by the soft glow of monitoring equipment. These past few weeks, I've noticed things. Little things. The way you tilt your head exactly 27 degrees when you're confused. How you never use contractions when you're stressed. The fact that your coffee is always exactly 137.5 degrees Fahrenheit before you'll drink it. My respiratory system seemed to malfunction as Alex stepped closer. And here's the thing, they continued, close enough now that a human would feel their body heat. None of those things made me want to spend less time with you. Actually, quite the opposite. The stars were becoming visible through the observatory's opening, my home star system just barely visible to Earth's telescopes. The moment felt suspended between two worlds, mine and theirs. Alex, I started again, my voice steady despite my internal chaos. What I'm about to tell you could change everything, not just between us, but potentially for your entire planet. I reached for the environmental controls on my wrist device. The one I'd told them was a fitness tracker. But before I could activate it, alarms began blaring throughout the building. Red emergency lights cast an eerie glow across Alex's suddenly worried face. My communication device buzzed with an urgent message from the Integration Committee. Protocol Omegae. Immediate extraction required. Cover compromised. Through the observatory's open dome, a familiar light pattern began to form in the night sky. I knew that pattern. It was a proximate emergency transport beam. They were coming to pull me out. I had mere moments to make a decision that would affect not just my research, not just my relationship with Alex, but potentially the entire diplomatic relationship between our worlds. The rational choice was clear. The emotional choice was impossible. Alex's hand found mine in the red-tinted darkness. Whatever you're about to do, they said, their voice barely audible over the alarms, just know that The transport beam's light grew stronger, beginning to illuminate the observatory in a distinctive blue glow. What Alex said next would either change everything or be the last words I'd hear on Earth. My time for decision-making was running out, and the consequences of either choice would ripple across two worlds. The transport beam's blue light suddenly flickered and died, plunging us into the red glow of the emergency lights. Something was wrong. My device buzzed again, this time with a message that made my heart stop. Multiple unauthorized signals DTCTEE. Extraction delayed. Maintain position. We need to move. Now. Alex's voice had changed, taking on a commanding tone I'd never heard before. They pulled me toward the observatory's exit, moving with practiced efficiency. This location is compromised. You know about the signals? I asked, allowing myself to be led through the dark hallways. The alarms had stopped, leaving an eerie silence broken only by our footsteps. Remember when I said I worked in data analysis? Alex's laugh was tense. I may have understated my position a bit. I'm part of an independent research group that's been tracking unusual signal patterns since first contact. We're not the only ones who've been watching the skies, Zoe. Or should I say, Zix 427. Before I could process this revelation, new lights appeared through the windows. Red and blue flashing lights from what appeared to be Earth security vehicles surrounding the building. But something about their positioning seemed off, not matching the standard Earth law enforcement protocols I'd studied. Those aren't real police. Alex confirmed my suspicions, pulling me into a maintenance corridor. There's another group that's been tracking extraterrestrial activity. They're less interested in diplomatic relations and more interested in acquisition. My skin shifted through several shades of distress before I could stabilize it. You mean they want to study you? Take your technology? Both? We're not sticking around to find out. Alex pulled out a different communication device, one I'd never seen them use before. Team, this is Alpha. Package secure, but we need immediate extraction. Protocol 7. I stopped in my tracks, my third eyelid flickering rapidly. You have a team. All this time, you we're protecting you? Alex's face softened for a moment. Yes, but not everything was protocol. These past weeks, the time we spent together, they paused, checking around a corner before continuing. Let's just say I've never compromised a mission because of feelings before. A crash echoed from behind us, followed by the sound of boots on metal stairs. Alex cursed under their breath, an Earth expression I'd grown quite fond of, and pulled me into what appeared to be a small research lab. Your people aren't the only ones with fancy technology, they said, pulling out what looked like a regular Earth phone but definitely wasn't. We've been developing our own methods of signal disruption. It's not perfect, but it should buy us some time. The device in Alex's hand hummed to life, emitting a frequency that made my inner ear sensors ache. Outside, I could hear frustrated voices as presumably both the extraction beam and the other group's communication devices failed. What I don't understand, I said, while Alex barricaded the door, is why now? My mission was scheduled for another 3 Earth months. Because, Alex replied, their fingers flying over the device's interface, someone in your integration committee has been feeding information to multiple Earth factions. The whole program is compromised. We've been trying to identify the leak, but they moved faster than we anticipated. My research training kicked in, connecting dots I should have seen before, the oddly specific questions from certain committee members, the random equipment malfunctions during key transmissions, the way some of my research data had been corrupted, especially regarding Earth's technological advancement rates. The committee didn't send that extraction order, did they? I asked, already knowing the answer. Alex shook their head. It was a fake signal designed to lure you into the open. Your real handlers probably don't even know what's happening right now. The implications were staggering. Not only was my mission compromised, but the entire first contact protocol could be at risk. 5 years of careful diplomatic relations between our worlds, endangered because someone wanted. What? Technology? Knowledge? Power? A new sound cut through the signal disruption, the distinctive whine of energy saws cutting through the building's security doors. Alexa's face went pale. They brought the heavy equipment. That's not good. They turned to me, their expression intense. Zoe, I need to know right now. Do you trust me? The irony of the moment wasn't lost on me. Here I was being asked to trust someone who had just admitted to deceiving me, by a member of a species I was supposed to be objectively studying. Every logical protocol in my training screamed against it, but logic hadn't been driving my decisions for a while now. Yes, I said, my voice harmonizing with frequencies that would have given away my non-human status if Alex hadn't already known. But you should know that my physiological response to stress can be somewhat explosive. A smile crept across Alex's face, the kind that humans make when they're about to do something either very brave or very stupid. Good, because Plan B involves making use of that particular trait. They reached into their bag and pulled out what appeared to be standard Earth swimwear. How do you feel about making a splash in the university's quantum physics lab? Before I could respond, the walls around us vibrated with a new frequency, one that made my entire cellular structure resonate uncomfortably. They were using sonic deterrents designed specifically for my species' biological structure. Alex, I managed to say through the increasing discomfort, there's something else you should know. Something about why my species chose Earth for first contact. I steadied myself against a lab table as the sonic waves intensified. We didn't just come here to study humans. We came because we detected something in your planet's core, something that shouldn't be possible. The energy saws were almost through the door now. Alexa's signal disruptor was starting to smoke from overuse, and I was about to reveal a secret that would either save us or completely reshape human understanding of their own world. The door's hinges began to glow red from the energy saw's heat. Alexa's hand found mine again, steady despite everything. Tell me quickly, how bad is this about to get? I squeezed their hand, my skin cycling through emergency warning colors. Let's just say your Earth phrase, out of this world, is about to become literally true. The quantum physics lab's door burst open with enough force to send equipment crashing. Alex yanked me behind a large particle accelerator just as the sonic waves reached an unbearable pitch. Through my increasingly blurred vision, I could make out figures in dark suits flooding the room, carrying what looked like modified Earth technology mixed with something decidedly not from this planet. Whatever you're going to tell me about Earth's core, Alex whispered, now would be a really good time. My cellular structure was beginning to destabilize from the sonic assault. I had maybe 2 minutes before total biological shutdown. Your planet's core. It's not natural. It's a device. The biggest and most sophisticated piece of technology we've ever encountered. And it's about to activate. Alex's eyes widened. What do you mean, activate? The room's emergency sprinkler system suddenly activated, but instead of water, it released a strange, silvery mist. The armed figures started shouting in confusion as their equipment began to spark and malfunction. Alexa's signal disruptor finally gave out with a pop and a puff of smoke. That's not the sprinkler system, I said, my voice modulating between frequencies as my control slipped. That's my backup team. Took them long enough. The silvery mist coalesced into floating spheres, each about the size of a human fist. They moved with purpose, positioning themselves between us and our attackers. I recognized the defense technology. It was standard Proxima emergency protocol, but I'd never seen it deployed on Earth before. The truth is, I continued, as the spheres began emitting a counter frequency that neutralized the sonic weapons. First contact wasn't random. We detected an energy signature from Earth's core that matched ancient readings from our own historical records. Your planet is essentially a massive storage device, planted here billions of years ago by someone. We don't know who, but it's been counting down all this time. The armed figures were retreating now, their weapons useless against the defensive spheres. Alex pulled me to my feet as my biological stability began to return. Counting down to what? Before I could answer, the ground beneath us trembled, not like an earthquake, more like a machine powering up. Every electronic device in the lab sparked to life simultaneously, displays showing readings that should have been impossible. That's why the committee was compromised, I said, pieces falling into place. Someone else knows about the core. They're not trying to capture me. They're trying to prevent us from being here when it activates. Alex's personal device suddenly projected a holographic display, definitely not standard Earth technology. My team's picking up energy readings off the charts. Whatever's down there, it's changing. The trembling intensified. Through the lab's windows, we could see lights across the city flickering in patterns. The defensive spheres began pulsing with increasing urgency. This is beyond anything we expected, I admitted, reaching for Alex's hand. The core device isn't just storing something. It's been terraforming your planet. Slowly, over billions of years, preparing Earth for this moment. The ground gave one final shudder, and then everything went still. Too still, the kind of stillness that comes before something monumental. Zix, Alex said softly, using my real name for the first time. What exactly has Earth been preparing for? A new message flashed across all the lab's screens simultaneously, in a language I'd only seen in our most ancient archives. The translation made my heart skip several beats. It says, "Seed protocol complete. Network connection established." My voice shook as I read the next line. Earth isn't just a storage device. It's a node, a connection point in a galaxy-wide network that's been dormant for billions of years, and we just witnessed it coming back online. The defensive spheres suddenly projected a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light were illuminating one by one, like stars waking up. Earth's signal was just one of many. Your dating protocols, I said with a laugh that sounded slightly hysterical even to my own ears. All that time I spent studying human courtship. I was so focused on understanding how humans connect with each other, I almost missed how your entire planet was about to connect with something much bigger. Alex squeezed my hand. So what happens now? The map zoomed in on Earth's location, showing new data streams beginning to flow through the network. Now we find out why someone built this network in the first place. And more importantly, I turned to face Alex. We figure out why they wanted it to reactivate specifically when humans reached their current stage of development. A final message scrolled across the screens. Phase 2 initiating. Awaiting user input. Alex and I stared at each other as the implications sank in. Earth wasn't just receiving a signal. It was being asked to respond. Humanity's first real test wasn't making contact with my species. It was deciding how to answer this call from something far more ancient and mysterious than any of us had imagined. And somehow, I had a feeling my research on human relationships was about to become more relevant than ever. 3 months have passed since Earth joined the galactic network, and humans continue to surprise me with their adaptability. The initial panic lasted about a week, remarkably brief for a species learning they'd been living on ancient alien technology. By week 2, humans had already created memes about it. My favorite was something about Earth being the galaxy's longest installation. The integration committee was thoroughly investigated and restructured. Turns out the compromised members were part of a fringe group that believed activating the network would lead to humanity's downfall. Instead, they got cat videos being shared across light years. The galaxy wasn't quite ready for that level of human culture, but they're adapting. Alex's research group was officially recognized and now leads Earth's effort to understand the network's potential. They insisted on keeping me as their cultural liaison, though I suspect their reasons weren't entirely professional. Not that I'm complaining. You know what's ironic? Alex said one evening as we sat in our spot at the Botanical Gardens, watching the new constellation of network nodes twinkling above us. All that time you spent studying human dating rituals, and you ended up being part of the biggest first date in history. Earth meeting the galaxy. I adjusted my environmental controls to match the cooling night air. The principles were surprisingly similar. Awkward first impressions, communication mishaps, trying to impress each other with our best qualities while hiding our flaws. Plus the constant fear of saying the wrong thing and causing an interplanetary incident, Alex added with a grin. My research project had evolved significantly. What started as a study of human courtship became an analysis of how different species approach relationship building, both personal and diplomatic. Turns out humans' messy, complicated way of connecting with each other might be exactly what the galaxy needed. The network itself was still largely a mystery. Every day brought new discoveries as more nodes activated across the galaxy. Some contained vast libraries of knowledge, others seemed to be transportation hubs, and a few appeared to be computational centers capable of calculations that made Earth's quantum computers look like ancient calculators. But the most fascinating discovery came from studying the network's basic programming. At its core, it wasn't just a communication system. It was a connection engine designed to bring compatible civilizations together, like a galaxy-wide dating app. but for entire species. Sarah found this particularly hilarious. "So you're telling me," she said during one of our regular coffee meetings, "that the entire universe runs on the same principles as Tinder?" "More like the universe recognized that connection is fundamental to growth," I corrected her. "The network doesn't just facilitate communication. It helps civilizations find others they can learn from, grow with, and complement." The hostile group that tried to prevent the activation was caught, and in a twist that still makes me laugh, sentenced to work on interspecies cultural exchange programs. Turns out facing your fears of alien cultures is more effective than trying to stop them. As for me, my term as a research student technically ended months ago, but I applied for an extended stay on Earth. The official reason was to continue studying human adaptation to galactic society. The real reason was sitting next to me in the garden, still trying to learn my native language despite having a universal translator. "You know," Alex said, attempting to pronounce my full name and managing to only slightly mangle it, "for someone who came here to study human relationships, you've done a pretty good job experiencing one firsthand." I let my skin shift to the soft blue shade that Alex always said reminded them of Earth's morning sky. Perhaps that was the best research methodology all along: full cultural immersion. Above us, another node blinked into life in the network constellation. Somewhere out there, another civilization was discovering they weren't alone, going through their own version of first contact, facing their own fears and hopes about joining something bigger than themselves. Back at my observation pod, I sent one final update to my research supervisors. Conclusion: human courtship rituals, while chaotic and often illogical, demonstrate this species' incredible capacity for connection, adaptation, and growth. Their approach to relationships, both personal and cosmic, may be exactly what this galaxy needs. Requesting permanent assignment to Earth for continued observation. Personal note: Subject Alex has proved that some experiments are worth becoming part of. The approval came back faster than light speed.